This morning, I woke up to a bunch of weird noises really early downstairs. So I went down, and my 11-year-old son was standing in the bathroom, and his whole face, his whole body was just covered in blood. And he was freaking out because he had a really bad bloody nose, and he's been dealing with a really bad earache. And the situation was just so intense. His anxiety and stress was just through the roof. And I said, "Why didn't you come get me?" And he said, "Because I didn't want you to be mad." And of course, that sounds kind of ridiculous. It's like, why would I be mad at a kid for getting a bloody nose? But the truth of it is, how many times has that same kid woken up, even when he was littler, and whatever, peed the bed, or had a nightmare, or thrown up, and instead of me acting in this perfectly enchanted, wonderful mom of the year way, I maybe did things like this. Oh my gosh, why couldn't you have ran to the toilet? Or, "Boss, I told you that's why you don't drink that much before you go to bed. I told you not to drink all that water." Or whatever it is. Instead of me just handling it in this kind way, it's like, holy cow, I'm a human being getting woken up in the middle of the night to some sort of intense situation that I don't really want to take care of in the middle of the night. I would rather be sleeping. And so both are real. I get to be a human that sometimes feels tired and freaked out and stressed, and he gets to be a human that sometimes is a child that makes my life maybe a little bit trickier in the moment. And to completely ignore that the past has already happened, and that there have been things that his 2-year-old self, 3-year-old self, 5-year-old self internalized of, when I have a problem in my life, it makes other people unhappy. We all have done that. That's why I'm sharing that story. For me to stand there in front of him when I wasn't really that triggered, I was more just like, oh my gosh, well, this bloody nose is crazy. And to act like he's the crazy one, to think that he shouldn't have come and asked me for help, would be to ignore all of his learned experience. And that doesn't mean that I'm bad or be putting the pressure on me as his mom. It means that both are real. It means that as a mom, I'm always trying my best, and it's hard and it's exhausting. And it means that him as a little boy is always trying to understand the world and how he can get love and get safety and get what he needs. That's what kids do. And because it's really hard to understand all the dynamics of an emotion and of a situation and what it is like to be an adult when you're the child, they oftentimes put all that pressure on themselves. And even this morning, although I was telling him, hey, it's no big deal, like the blankets don't matter, the bed doesn't matter, I was telling him all of that with my words, and still, like 10 minutes later, I was kind of getting frustrated with him because he wasn't calming down. He was just so high stress, and it was freaking me out. So I was like, hey, calm down. So it's like always these mixed emotions. Relationships are not just one perfect linear transactional thing that we understand perfectly. And the reason I'm telling you this is because we've all been children who don't understand, and we're all adults who still don't really understand. And in the 12-step addiction program, they usually, when people decide to get help in recovery, it's because they're at a rock bottom. And the very first step that they learn is that they're 100% powerless to fixing the situation on their own. That there's no other version of them. There's no perfect thing that they can learn, or therapy they can do, or a person they can turn into that's going to be able to handle their life without alcohol or whatever their addiction is. That they're always going to be helpless and powerless to that. And that can sound really depressing, but when you hear step 2, which is to completely surrender to the divine source of all life and love, whether you want to call that God or not, God is an archetype in every single one of us. And whether we believe in God or whether we've been traumatized or hurt by God, it doesn't matter. God is still, that idea of God is in all of us. And when we get to a point that we realize we are powerless to going back. We will always go back to our same ways of buffering and addictions and trying to make ourselves feel better, because at our core, we all feel like we've done something wrong, like we're not good enough, like we maybe don't deserve love, like we're not enough. And because of that, we'll always go back to our same patterns, our same triggers, our same buffers, and realizing that we are all powerless, every single one of us. And because of that, we all need something bigger than us. That can feel like relief. You've done nothing wrong. The fact that your life and your thoughts and your patterns and your addictions and the ways that you hurt yourself over and over and over again in your mind or physically or in your life, going back to the same relationships that don't help you, whatever it is, the fact that you always are going that, like in laps, and you're probably frustrated with yourself, as we all are. Like, we just want to be better. We just want to learn the lesson. We just don't want to go through this pain. That's supposed to be that way. And the only thing that can help us really is realizing that there's something a little bit bigger than us. And you don't have to call it God. You can call it the universe. You can call it divine source of love. Whatever it is, we all have that idea in us. And that's what we're searching for oftentimes. And I think that 12-step recovery program, that feeling of being powerless and surrendering, is really the first two key steps in moving forward, because that's all there really is. If you're only relying on yourself for the rest of your life, it's going to be lonely and it's going to be really tiring. And most people that come and lay on the table when I'm working on them for that emotional release therapy, they all feel that way. They all feel really lonely and really tired and really exhausted and sad and a little hopeless. And a lot of them are living really normal lives. A lot of them are not in some sort of addiction recovery, but it's because we are all addicted to our same ways of thinking and our same stories and our same patterns. And that's because it's supposed to be that way. It's the only way we can learn how to really overcome any of that pain is to surrender to it and realize that we're not in control. The only thing that we can fully have control over is what we choose to believe and see in life. And the biggest, most important, most easy way you can change your core beliefs about who you are, if you're safe, if you're loved, if you're okay, if you're worthy, is by first changing the way you breathe. This has been studied in science by doctors. There is a direct pathway to the part of you that feels scared and not enough, the smaller version of you, right by your brain stem, that when you're breathing really deep and aware that you're breathing, it calms this part of you down. And it allows you to use your bigger brain, your human brain, that will tell you a different story. Now, that bigger brain has all of its own wounding. And so it can only do so much. And that's when you need your even bigger, more spiritual part of you that believes in something a little bit bigger. And your job to find that can come from you and you alone. If you've been traumatized by religion, if you've felt really hurt and left by God, then your journey will be to find what that is bigger than you, that can carry you. And a lot of times the breath is enough to bring you along that journey. Literally every single time you breathe, your body is giving you life. If you stopped breathing, you wouldn't have life. So even that breath alone, in and out, is something that's holding you and carrying you, that's bigger than you. And just like my little boy who thought that he had to do all of that painful moment of waking up scared with a really bad earache, pain, and a bloody nose, fear, by himself, we're all just like that. We're all every day in our lives scared, freaked out, with pain, holding it onto it, and a little bit like, what are we supposed to do with all of this? And at any time, he could have remembered that he had a mom upstairs that would help him. And his mom is human, so sometimes she doesn't do a great job. The good thing about whatever you find that's bigger than you is it's always there. So for me, a lot of times, if God feels too big to reach for, then I can always reach for something really tangible, which is being outside in nature, the sun, drinking water, being by trees, and my breath. And that is a pathway for me to remembering that I am so tiny compared to what bigger things out there are supporting me. Water is literally helping keeping me alive. Trees are literally making oxygen. Nature is literally something I'm standing on. So those are all very grounded things that I can think of. So what the center of this message is that if you have a hard time remembering that you're okay, that you're safe, that you're loved, you're just like every other human. We're all that way. There's no shame. There's nothing you're doing wrong. If you're going back to all of your same patterns and feeling frustrated that you're never changing and you're never getting better and you're never growing, really, because at the end of the day, you always end up back in a similar cycle, you're just like everybody else. Everybody does that. There's no other you that has everything figured out that's perfect. This is the you right here. And your only job is to, as quickly as you can, remember that you don't have to do it alone. Remember that in this moment, chances are you're okay. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if you have pain. I inhale, I'm safe right now. I exhale, I let go, and relax wherever that is in your body. A lot of my messages come back to this, and that's because there's not, the more complicated we make things, the more complicated they feel on our energy. The more simple we make things, the more simple they feel inside. And simplicity often brings a lot of peace. And I also feel that something that's really simple is usually really true. So next time you feel freaked out and you are like my little boy, full of fear, feeling alone, feeling like he even did something wrong when he did nothing wrong, know that you arrived exactly where you are for a reason, that we all learn lessons over and over and over again that build fear and layers of feeling lonely and scared. And know that you can start to choose something different. It starts with your breath. It starts with deciding to relax. It starts with releasing the story that you are wrong, that you are bad, that you don't deserve love.